Okay.
And here I wanted to sort out some of the problems I got into last time, and the backbone of my audience is missing. I really feel bad because I wanted to try to sort out that issue of the 12 and so on. See if I can do something with this thing. This is a good calico, good calico thing. Okay, hopefully that'll do it. Yeah, I want to try to sort out that issue of the 12, and I think it can be sorted out better by just taking one narrative. Sometimes when you take parallel narratives, you lose the thread of the different ones. And what I was trying to point out, if you look at Matthew 14 quickly again, first we have, Herod's birthday party. To my mind, a big joke. But why is it a joke? Because who cares about birthday parties in this period of history? The Romans, that's all. They're the people who care about birthday parties. The Jews in Palestine are not interested in birthdays. It's not one of their traditions. It becomes one later on, but this is the Romans, because of the different gods and goddesses and various astrological things, birthdays were very big for them. But anyway, we went over that. Jesus goes to a deserted place, goes to the wilderness to do signs. And he's going to feed the people in the wilderness, like Moses fed the Jewish people in the wilderness. There's all those overtones that the writer is very well aware of, if the reader isn't. And he saw a multitude and he healed the sick. There's Jesus as Asclepius, healing the sick. Remember I told you about Asclepius, the god of healing for the Hellenistic, Greco-Hellenistic world. Jesus the healer. This is just automatic. He heals people, as you know, endlessly. And again, I'm not trying to be cruel, but we want to look for the historical Jesus in these things. And if someone were such a healer, we'd probably want to send him all over the world and get on to India, get all that leprosy worked out there, and get down to Africa and do all the AIDS too. Because I wouldn't want to just satisfy with a few people out in the crowd here. In any event, we want the history, and that's why I'm cruel. I don't mean to be cruel. But if you're going to separate history from legend, mythology, other sorts of, Greco-Roman god tales, and a certain amount in the Old Testament. I mean, I don't know Elijah, how much healing he does. A little bit maybe, but Moses does a bit of healing in the Miriam episode. It's not a central focus as it is here of each episode. In any case, so they have the crowds, and then there's a problem of eating. So since this is more of a bourgeois episode than a desert episode, Jesus sends his disciples into the town to get some food, like you would do out in the Death Valley or someplace. And anyway, there isn't enough, so he broke the bread and gave the loaves, and the disciples gave them to the multitudes, or the rabbim, as Qumran would put it. And they all ate and were satisfied. I keep a note on words like satisfied. And they took up 12 baskets full of pieces that were left over. That was 12 baskets after they broke all. So, in fact, there was more left over than what they began with. Or, that's not, I'm totally clear. And there were 5,000. Okay, so we've got that. Then Jesus goes to a ship, and he calms the sea, and Peter tries to do the same, but Peter sinks because he doesn't have enough Pauline faith. That's the rest of chapter 14. Chapter 15, I hope Peter didn't drown, by the way. In chapter 15, the scribes and the Pharisees come from Jerusalem. And we know that the code name for scribes and Pharisees often. And again, we have this material about why do your disciples violate the tradition of the elders? And we find out, first of all, that the reason you should not wash your hands at a meal is because your parents didn't. and that ultimately the scribes and Pharisees are out of their minds because they want people to wash their hands before eating. We know who wrote this, and we've already been told that for the purpose of newcomers. I just mentioned it, you know, and so on. But we know who wrote that kind of material. Certainly overseas, people in the Greco-Hellenist world who didn't understand Palestinian, Judeo cleanliness rules and found them to be a little bit overburdensome and therefore you know, peculiar and rather laughable. I mean, can you imagine telling a Nero or Tiberius or Caligula that it was a good idea to wash his hands before he went to eat? Well, I'll wash them after I eat. If I dirty them with the food, why should I wash them before I eat? This is ridiculous. So I'm not, you know, I'm saving Jesus. I mean, no believer laughs at Jesus. That we know. But I'm saving Jesus from being laughable. And I think Christians should thank me, in fact. Because, okay, they don't take it, they don't seriously do what I'm doing because it's not in their, you know, the believer shouldn't do this. It would be hurtful and painful. But on the other hand, I mean, for historical Jesus, if you want to find, I'm not going to saddle him with this episode. Because my Jesus, or your Jesus, or the Jesus I think was out there, wouldn't say such ludicrous things in the interests of a polemical debate. That's my honest opinion. Kill me, shoot me, do what you want. Okay, that's interspersed, as we saw. I'm going to come back to this in a minute, because we have the Canaanite woman that we didn't deal with yet. But okay, then we come to the second baskets, loaves and fishes episode in Matthew and Mark. And I'll come back to it in a minute. And Jesus and his disciples said to him, "Where will we get so many loaves?" Line 33, in the wilderness. And then the word satisfied, the crowd. And he doesn't send him into the town here, but basically it's the same thing. How many loaves do you have? 7, and a few little fish. And he commands them to come there to take the 7 loaves and the fish. They break them, and we see it's a total repeat of the previous one. So we see how our editors are working here, not very carefully. In fact, sometimes the material gets totally confused and bouncing back and forth from one gospel to another. But the point I was trying to make last time was that when there are 4,000 here instead of 5,000, which is why the editors may say, well, we better include that too because it's a different episode, it's only 4,000, not 5,000.